The red planet burned below them. Captain Hyun-woo stood on the bridge of his massive ship and watched the fires spread across the mining colony. His ship was called the Sovereign's Wrath, and it was the biggest warship in the Veltar fleet. Nothing could stand against it. "Sir, the last rebel ship is trying to escape," said his officer. Hyun-woo did not look away from the burning planet. "Destroy it," the officer pressed a button. A beam of bright energy shot from their ship and hit the small rebel vessel. The ship exploded in a ball of fire and metal. Hyun-woo smiled. Another world had learned not to fight the Veltar hegemony. The Veltar had ruled this part of space for 300 years. Their ships were huge and powerful. Their weapons could destroy entire cities with one shot. No one dared to fight them anymore. No one could win, Captain, another officer said. "We are getting strange reports from the outer worlds." Hyun-woo turned around. His long blue face showed no emotion. Like all Veltar, he was tall and thin with gray skin and cold yellow eyes. "What kind of reports?" "3 of our bases have gone quiet, sir. No messages for 2 weeks. We sent ships to check, but they never came back." Hyun-woo thought about this. It was strange. The outer worlds were far from any major colonies. Who would dare attack Veltar bases there? "Send more ships," he ordered. "Find out what happened." "Yes, sir." Far away on the planet Vega Prime, So-young worked in a dark basement. She was human, with black hair and tired eyes. Around her were broken machines and old computer parts. She was trying to build something that could fight the Veltar. The basement was part of a secret rebel group. They met in hidden places and whispered about freedom. Most people thought they were crazy. The Veltar were too strong. Their ships were too big. Their weapons were too powerful. But So-young did not give up. She was an engineer. She understood how machines worked. For months, she had been studying pieces of Veltar technology that rebels had stolen. She was learning their secrets. "Any luck?" asked a voice behind her. So-young turned around. Her brother Taemin stood in the doorway. He was thin and pale. The Veltar had kept him in prison for 2 years before he escaped. The experience had changed him. He barely smiled anymore. "Maybe," So-young said. "I think I understand how their shields work. If I am right, we might be able to build weapons that can hurt them." Taemin sat down beside her. "I heard something today from traders who came from the Outer Rim." "What?" "They say there is a ghost ship out there. It attacks Veltar bases and then disappears. No one knows where it comes from or where it goes." So-young stopped working. "A ghost ship?" "The traders say it is not like any ship they have seen before. It is smaller than Veltar ships, but much faster." "And its weapons?" "They say its weapons can cut through Veltar armor like it is made of paper." So-young felt her heart beat faster. "Do you think it is real?" "I do not know." But the traders were scared, really scared. They have seen many things in space, but this was different. Back in space, Admiral Jae-ho read the reports with growing worry. He was older than Captain Hyun-woo, with scars on his face from many battles. He had fought for the Veltar for 50 years. He had never seen anything like this. 5 bases were now silent. 2 patrol fleets had disappeared. The only clues were strange energy readings and pieces of metal that did not match any known ship design. "Sir," his aide said, "High Command wants to know what is happening." Jae-ho looked at the star map. Red dots marked where the attacks had happened. They were all on the edge of Veltar space, far from the main worlds. "Tell High Command we are investigating," he said, "and send 3 more fleets to the Outer Rim. Whatever is out there, we will find it and destroy it." On a small space station near the edge of known space, smuggler Captain Hae-jin was drinking in a bar when the news came on. The hologram showed a Veltar news reader talking about minor technical problems in the outer worlds. Hae-jin laughed. He knew the truth was different. He had been in the Outer Rim last week. He had seen the fear in people's eyes. Something was hunting the Veltar, and they did not know what to do about it. "Another drink?" asked the bartender. "Sure," Hae-jin said. He was a short man with quick eyes and fast hands. He had been smuggling goods past Veltar patrols for 20 years. He knew how to read between the lines of their news reports. The hologram changed to show Admiral Jeho giving a speech. The Veltar hegemony is strong, the Admiral said. A few pirates cannot threaten our great empire. We will find them and make them pay. But Heijin could see the worry in the Admiral's eyes. This was not about pirates. This was about something the Veltar had never faced before. Deep in the ruins of an ancient city on a forgotten world, Dr. Minho brushed dust from an old stone tablet. He was an archaeologist who studied the civilizations that lived before the Veltar came. Most people thought his work was useless. The past was dead. Only the present mattered, but Minho had found something interesting. The tablet showed pictures of ships and beings he had never seen before. The writing was in an old language, but he could read some of it. The words spoke of a people called humans. They had lived in this part of space long ago, before the Veltar. Conquered everything. The tablet said they were clever and brave. It said they never gave up even when things looked hopeless. Min-Ho had found similar tablets on other worlds. They all told the same story. Humans had once lived throughout this region of space. Then the Veltar came and the humans disappeared. Most people assumed they had been destroyed like so many other species, but what if they were wrong? What if some humans had survived? What if they were still out there, hiding and waiting? Minho looked at the tablet again. One line caught his attention. In rough translation it said, "When darkness covers the stars, the children of Earth will return to bring the light." He wondered what it meant. He wondered if it was connected to the strange reports coming from the outer rim, but that seemed impossible. The humans were gone. Everyone knew that, or were they? Captain Hien Wu received new orders that night. He was to take his fleet to the outer rim and find whatever was attacking Veltar forces. High Command was angry. Someone was making them look weak. As his ship prepared to leave, Hien Wu studied the reports one more time. The attacks were surgical and precise. The enemy knew exactly where to hit and when to retreat. This was not the work of desperate rebels or random pirates. This was the work of someone who understood war, someone who had been planning and preparing for a long time, someone who was not afraid of the mighty Veltar fleet for the first time. In his long career, Captain Hien Wu felt something he had never felt before. He felt doubt. The Veltar had always been the strongest. They had always won. But what if this time was different? What if they had finally met an enemy they could not defeat? The space around Epsilon Eridani was quiet, too quiet. Captain Heijin guided his small cargo ship through the asteroid field, looking for any sign of trouble. He had a delivery to make to the mining station, but something felt wrong. His sensors beeped. 3 large shapes appeared on his screen. Veltar destroyers. They were moving fast toward the mining station. "What are they doing here?" Heijin muttered. The miners paid their taxes. They caused no trouble. There was no reason for Veltar warships to be in this system. Then he saw it. Another ship was following the destroyers. It was different from anything Heijin had ever seen. It was sleek and dark, with smooth lines that seemed to bend light around them. It was much smaller than the Veltar ships, but it moved like a hunting cat. The Veltar destroyers reached the mining station and opened fire. Bright beams of energy hit the station's shields. The miners had no chance. Their weapons were old and weak, but then the strange ship acted. It came up behind the destroyers, like a shadow. Its weapons were different too. Instead of crude energy beams, they fired precise bolts of blue light that cut through the Veltar armor like it was made of thin metal. The first destroyer exploded before its crew knew what hit them. The second one tried to turn around, but the strange ship was too fast. It danced around the big Veltar vessel, firing again and again. Each shot found a weak spot in the armor. The third destroyer managed to fire back. Its massive guns sent red energy toward the strange ship. But the unknown vessel twisted away from the attack with impossible grace. It moved like it knew where the shots would be before they were fired. In less than 10 minutes, all 3 Veltar destroyers were dead. The strange ship checked the mining station once, then disappeared into space as quickly as it had come. Heijin sat in his pilot seat, his hands shaking. He had just watched someone destroy 3 Veltar warships with ease. It should have been impossible. But he had seen it with his own eyes. Admiral Jeho stood in the command center of his flagship, reading reports that made no sense. 7 more bases had been attacked. 4 patrol groups had been destroyed. The enemy struck without warning and vanished without a trace. "What do we know about their ships?" he asked his intelligence officer. "Very little, sir. Survivors describe them as dark and fast. Their weapons seem to use some kind of focused energy that cuts through our armor. But we have no clear sensor readings. They disappear from our screens as if they were never there." Jeho studied the tactical display. Red marks showed where attacks had happened. There was a pattern, but he could not see it clearly. "They are not random," he said. "They are choosing their targets carefully, but why these places? What do they want?" "Perhaps they are testing our defenses, sir." "No, if they wanted to test us, they would attack stronger targets. These attacks are meant to send a message." "But what message?" "And who was sending it?" On Vega Prime, So Young worked late into the night. The reports from the Outer Rim had reached even the underground rebels. Something was fighting the Veltar and winning. It gave her hope, but also made her work faster. "The shield frequency changes every few seconds," she explained to her brother Taemin. "But there is a pattern. If we can match that pattern, our weapons might be able to get through." Taemin looked at her work. The equations and diagrams covered 3 walls of the basement. "You really think this will work?" "I have to believe it will work. We cannot keep living like this, hiding in basements and whispering about freedom. Someone out there is showing us that the Veltar can be beaten." She paused and looked at her brother. "Tell me more about what the traitor said." "About the ghost ship." Tae-Min thought for a moment. "They said it appeared during a Veltar attack on a small colony. The colonists were going to surrender. Their ships were old and broken. Then this unknown vessel showed up and destroyed an entire Veltar squadron in minutes. What happened to the colonists?" "The ghost ship sent them a message," it told them, "to evacuate to the inner systems where they would be safer. Then it disappeared." So Young felt something stir in her chest. Hope, real hope. It was protecting them. Not conquering or demanding payment, protecting them. "Yes, the traitors said the same thing happened at 3 other colonies. The ghost ship fights the Veltar, but it does not harm civilians." This was different from anything So Young had heard about. Pirates took what they wanted. Rebels fought for their own worlds. But this ghost ship seemed to be fighting for everyone. Dr. Minho made a discovery that changed everything. Deep in the archives of the old university, he found a data core that had survived the Veltar conquest. It contained star charts and records from before the hegemony. The records spoke of humans in detail. They had been explorers and builders. They had settled dozens of worlds in this region of space. But when the Veltar invasion began, something strange happened. Instead of fighting a direct war they could not win, the humans had simply vanished. Ships, colonies, entire populations had disappeared overnight. The Veltar found empty cities and abandoned bases, but no bodies and no sign of where the people had gone. "They ran away," Minho said to himself. "But where did they go?" He studied the star charts more carefully. There were references to deep colonies and hidden worlds in the Outer Rim, places where humans had prepared for the worst. What if they had been hiding all this time? What if they had spent 3 centuries preparing, building, and waiting for the right moment to return? The pieces were starting to fit together. The ghost ship, the precise attacks, the protection of civilians. It all made sense if the attackers were human. But how had they become so powerful? The records showed that human technology was good, but not better than what the Veltar had. Something had changed. Captain Hyun-woo arrived at the outer terminus. With his fleet, 5 massive warships, each carrying enough firepower to destroy a moon. Surely this would be enough to handle one mysterious ship. His sensors officer reported strange readings in the asteroid field. "Something is out there, sir, but I cannot get a clear reading." "Move the fleet into attack formation," Hyun-woo ordered. If there is an enemy ship hiding in those rocks, we will find it. The Veltar ships spread out and began moving through the asteroid field. Their massive hulls pushed smaller rocks aside like toys. Their sensors probed every shadow. Then the attack came. The enemy ship appeared from behind a large asteroid, moving faster than anything that size should be able to move. Its first shots hit the rear ship in the fleet, finding the exact spots. Where the armor was weakest, all ships target that vessel. Han Wu shouted. But the enemy ship was already gone, vanished behind another asteroid. The Veltar ships fired at empty space, then it appeared again, this time on their left flank. More precise shots, more damage. One of Han Wu's destroyers started to list as its engines failed. How is it moving so fast? His tactical officer asked. I do not know, Han Wu said. All ships, close formation. Do not let it get between. U.S. But the enemy seemed to know what they would do before they did it. It used the asteroids as cover, the gravity of larger rocks to change direction quickly, even the radiation from a nearby star to hide its energy signature. This was not how space battles were supposed to work. Ships were supposed to line up and trade shots until the stronger one won. This enemy fought like a dancer, always moving. Never where the Veltar expected it to be. After an hour of fighting, Han Wu had lost 2 ships and the others were badly damaged. The enemy vessel seemed untouched. Sir, his communications officer said, I am picking up a transmission from the enemy ship. Put it on screen. The hologram showed a figure in a strange uniform. The being looked almost like a Veltar, but different. Shorter, with different colored skin and strange round eyes. I am Captain Dong Hyen of the Terran vessel Indomitable, the figure said. You have entered our space and attacked our people. Withdraw now or be destroyed. Han Wu stared at the image. Terran? What is a Terran? We are human, Captain Dong Hyen said. And we are done hiding, the transmission ended. For a long moment, Han Wu could not speak. Humans, the species that was supposed to be extinct. They were alive and they had become something the Veltar had never expected. An enemy that could fight back, an enemy that could win. Captain Han Wu could not believe what he had just heard. Humans were supposed to be dead, everyone knew that. The Veltar had conquered their worlds 300 years ago and found them empty, but now one of these humans was talking to him. From a ship that had just destroyed half his fleet. You lie, Han Wu said into his communicator. Humans are extinct. We made sure of that. Captain Dong Hyen's image appeared on the screen again. He was calm, like someone who had been waiting. For this moment for a long time, you made sure of nothing. You found empty worlds because we chose to leave them empty. We have been watching you, learning about you, preparing for this day. One ship cannot defeat the entire Veltar fleet, Han Wu said. One ship just defeated half of yours, Dong Hyen replied. And we have more than one ship. The transmission ended. Han Wu looked around his bridge. His officers were scared. They had never seen their captain lose a battle before. They had never seen anyone fight like the humans. Sir, his tactical officer said. Should we call for reinforcements? Han Wu thought about it. His pride told him to keep fighting. He was a Veltar captain. He should not run from anyone. But his brain told him something different. This enemy was unlike anything they had faced before. Send a message to Admiral Jeho, he said finally. Tell him we have found the source of the attacks. Tell him we need more ships. Aboard the Indomitable, Captain Dong Hyen watched the damaged Veltar ships retreat. His crew worked quietly. At their stations. They had trained for this moment for many years. Captain, said his communications officer Eugene. I monitored their transmissions during the battle. They were completely confused by our tactics. Good, Dong Hyen said. Confusion is our advantage. They expect enemies to fight like them. Big ships, heavy armor, direct attacks. They do not know how to fight an enemy that thinks differently. Eugene was young for a starship officer, but she was very good at her job. She had grown up on one of the hidden human colonies, learning about the Veltar and planning for the day when humanity would return to reclaim their space. Their ships are powerful, she said, but they are slow and predictable. They rely on armor and heavy weapons instead of speed and tactics. Exactly. They have been the strongest force in this region for so long that they have forgotten how to really fight. They just overwhelm their enemies with numbers and firepower. Dong Haiyan looked at the star map on his screen. Red dots showed Veltar, bases and patrol routes. Green dots showed human colonies and ship positions. The humans were outnumbered 1,000 to 1, but they had advantages the Veltar did not understand. Set course for the Kepler system, he ordered. It is time to show them that we are not just one ship. On Vega Prime, So-young worked frantically to complete her shield harmonics project. News of the battle at Outer Terminus had reached the rebel networks. For the first time in 3 centuries, someone had defeated a Veltar fleet in open combat. The frequency pattern is more complex than I thought, she told Taemin. But I think I have it figured out. If we can build weapons that match this frequency, they should be able to penetrate Veltar shields. Taemin looked at the device she had built. It was small and simple looking, but So-young claimed it could change everything. How do we test it? He asked, very carefully. If this works, we will need to share it with every rebel group in the sector. But first, we need to make sure it actually works. They did not have to wait long. 3 days later, Veltar ships arrived. At Vega Prime, someone had told them about rebel activity on the planet. The ships began scanning the cities looking for hidden bases. This is our chance, So-young said. She had installed her device on an old plasma cannon that the rebels had stolen years before. If my calculations are right, this should work. The Veltar patrol ship came close to their hiding place. Its shields were active, glowing with the blue energy that had protected Veltar ships for centuries. So-young aimed carefully and fired. The plasma bolt struck the Veltar shields and passed right through them. It hit the ship's hull and left a burning hole in the armor. The Veltar ship spun away, its crew probably confused about what had just happened. It works, Taemin said, his voice full of wonder. It actually works. So-young smiled for the first time in months. Now we need to build more, many more. Dr. Minho made another discovery in the ancient archives. He found detailed records of human technology from before the Veltar conquest. The humans had been good engineers and scientists, but their weapons and ships were not superior to what other species had, but there was something else in the records. References to deep space research and long-term development projects. The humans had been planning something even before the Veltar arrived. One file caught his attention. It was labeled Project Exodus and was heavily encrypted. Minho worked for hours to break the code. When he finally succeeded, what he found amazed him. Project Exodus was a plan to evacuate human populations to hidden bases in deep space. But it was more than just running away. The humans had planned to use their time in hiding to advance their technology far beyond what anyone else had. The plan called for small, fast ships instead of big, heavy ones, advanced computers that could predict enemy movements, weapons that could adapt to any defense. It was a complete rethinking of how space warfare should work. They spent 300 years preparing, Minho said to himself. While the Veltar grew comfortable and lazy, the humans were learning and building and planning. He thought about the reports from Outer Terminus. A single human ship had defeated 5 Veltar warships. If the humans had many such ships, and if they all fought with the same skill and technology, the Veltar were in serious trouble. Admiral Jeho received Captain Haiyanwu's report with growing alarm. Humans, alive and fighting with technology that seemed impossible. This changed everything, he called an emergency meeting of his senior commanders. The hologram conference room filled with the images of captains and admirals from across the Veltar fleet. The enemy has revealed themselves, Jeho told the group. They are humans, somehow survived from the old conquest. Their ships are smaller than ours, but much faster and more advanced. How many ships do they have? Asked one captain. Unknown. We have confirmed at least one, but there are probably more. Then we destroy them all, said another commander. Send the entire fleet to hunt them down. Ho thought about this. It was the Veltar way? Use overwhelming force to crush any opposition, but something told him this time would be different. These humans do not fight like other enemies, he said. They use tactics we have never seen. They turn our strengths against us. If we attack with the full fleet, we might lose many ships. You suggest we do nothing? I suggest we be careful. The humans have been planning this for 3 centuries. They know everything about us, but we know almost nothing about them. The meeting ended with no clear decision. Some commanders wanted to attack immediately. Others wanted to gather more information first. But all of them agreed on one thing. The humans were a threat that had to be dealt with. Captain Heijin docked his ship at a space station near the core worlds. Word of the battle at Outer Terminus had spread through the underground networks. People were talking about humans and ghost ships and the first real defeat of a Veltar fleet in living memory. In the cantina, smugglers and traders shared stories and rumors. Some said the humans had returned with 100 ships. Others claimed they had weapons that could destroy entire planets. Nobody knew the truth, but everyone was excited. I saw it happen, Heijin told a group of listeners. 3 Veltar destroyers destroyed by 1 human ship. It moved like nothing I've ever seen, like it could see the future. What did the humans look like? Someone asked. Like Veltar, but different. Shorter, with round eyes and strange-colored skin, but they moved and talked like people who had been planning for war for a very long time. An old trader leaned forward. My grandfather used to tell stories about humans. He said they were clever and stubborn. He said they never gave up, even when things looked hopeless. Your grandfather was right, Heijin said. These humans have been hiding for 300 years, waiting for their chance. Now they are back, and they are ready to fight. Around the cantina, people nodded and whispered. For the first time in centuries, there was hope. The Veltar could be beaten. Someone had proved it. The question now was, what would happen next? Would the humans be content with defending themselves, or did they have bigger plans? In the deep space beyond the outer rim, Admiral Sujin read the battle reports from the Indomitable. Captain Donghayan had performed exactly as expected. The Veltar were confused and frightened, just as the humans had hoped, but this was only the beginning. The Terran remnant fleet had 47 ships, each as advanced as the Indomitable. They had been built in secret over many decades, using technology that the Veltar could not imagine. Send word to all ship commanders, Sujin ordered. Phase 2 begins now. It is time to show the galaxy that humanity has returned. The war was about to become much bigger. The news spread across the galaxy like fire. For the first time in 300 years, someone had defeated a Veltar fleet in battle. In cantinas and meeting halls, on mining stations and farming worlds, people whispered the same word. Humans, most, had never heard of humans before. The Veltar had done their best to erase all memory of the species they thought they had destroyed. But now the old stories were coming back. Stories of explorers who crossed vast distances to find new worlds. Stories of engineers who could fix anything. Stories of fighters who never gave up. On the industrial world of Rigel 4, FACTORY stopped their machines and gathered in secret. They had heard about the battle at Outer Terminus. They had heard about weapons that could cut through Veltar armor. Is it true? Asked one worker. Did someone really beat the Veltar? My cousin works on a shipping dock, said another. He saw the damaged ships when they came back. 3 destroyers with holes burned right through their hulls. The factory boss, a Veltar overseer, tried to stop the meetings, but there were too many workers and too few guards. For the first time in their lives, the workers felt hope on Vega Prime. So-Young had shared her shield harmonics technology with 12 different rebel groups. They were building weapons as fast as they could. Simple plasma rifles and missile launchers, but now they could hurt Veltar ships. The frequency has to be exact, she explained to a group of rebel engineers. Even a small mistake will make the weapon useless, but if you get it right, you can punch through their shields like they are not even there. Taemin brought her more news from the traders. They say the humans have hit 6 more Veltar bases. Always the same pattern. Fast attack, precise targeting, then disappear before reinforcements arrive. They are not trying to hold territory, So Young realized. They are trying to spread fear. Make the Veltar think they could be attacked anywhere, anytime. It was working. Veltar commanders were pulling ships back from patrol duty to protect their bases. Trade routes were becoming less secure as the aliens focused on their own safety instead of controlling the galaxy. In his laboratory, Dr. Minho continued to study the ancient human records. What he found amazed him more each day. The humans had not just planned to hide from the Veltar. They had planned to become something better than they were before. The record spoke of adaptive technology that could learn and improve itself, of quantum computers that could process information faster than any biological brain, of nanomaterials that were stronger than anything the Veltar could build. They used their time in exile to advance their science by centuries, Minho said to his assistant. While the Veltar grew comfortable with their old technology, the humans were inventing new ways to fight. One record caught his attention. It was a message from the last human leader before the Exodus. Admiral Park Jinwoo had written, "We go into the darkness not as refugees but as students. We will learn everything we can about our enemies and ourselves. When we return, we will be stronger than anyone imagines." The humans had kept that promise. Captain Dong Hyan stood on the bridge of the Indomitable as it approached their Kepler system. His ship was not alone anymore. 3 other human vessels moved with him through space, each one as deadly as his own. 4 ships should be enough to handle their patrol base, said Commander Yujin. She had been promoted after the battle at Outer Terminus. The goal is not just to destroy the base, Dong Hyan reminded her. We want to send a message. The Veltar need to understand that nowhere is safe for them anymore. The Kepler base was larger than the outposts they had hit before. It had 8 ships on patrol and defensive platforms around the main station. In the old days, such a target would have required a major fleet assault, but the humans did not fight the old way. The 4 human ships spread out as they approached the system. They used the gravity of the gas giant to mask their approach, coming at the base from 4 different directions. The Veltar sensors detected them at the last moment. Alarms sounded throughout the base as 8 patrol ships moved to intercept. The battle lasted only 20 minutes. The human ships moved like dancers, using their speed and agility to avoid the heavy Veltar weapons while striking with surgical precision. The Veltar ships were powerful, but they were too slow to catch their enemies. When it was over, the base was destroyed and all 8 patrol ships were dead. The human vessels had suffered only minor damage. Send the standard message, Dong Hyan ordered. Yujin transmitted on all frequencies. This is the Terran remnant fleet. We have returned to reclaim our space. Any Veltar forces that withdraw to your core worlds will not be pursued. Any that remain will be destroyed. It was not entirely true. The humans did not have enough ships to clear all Veltar forces from the region, but the aliens did not need to know that. Admiral Jeho read the reports with growing panic. 8 bases destroyed in 2 weeks. 15 patrol groups eliminated. And now the humans were sending messages, claiming to represent something called the Terran Remnant Fleet. How many ships do they have? He asked his intelligence officer. We have confirmed sightings of at least 6 different vessels, sir, but there could be more. 6 ships had paralyzed an entire sector of Veltar space. It seemed impossible, but the evidence was right there in the damage reports. What does High Command say? They want to know why we have not stopped the attacks. They are sending Grand Admiral Kyung-soo to take personal command of the situation. Jeho felt his blood turn cold. Grand Admiral Kyung-soo was the most senior military officer in the Veltar hegemony. He had never lost a battle in 60 years of service. If he was coming personally, it meant High Command was taking the human threat very seriously. It also meant that Jeho's career was probably over. On the hidden human colony of New Seoul, Admiral Soo-jin reviewed the reports from her ship commanders. Phase 2 of the plan was working perfectly. The Veltar were confused and frightened, pulling ships back to defend their bases instead of patrolling the trade routes. But she knew this was just the beginning. Soon the Veltar would organize a massive counterattack. When that happened, the humans would need more than just superior tactics. "Send word to all the resistance groups," she ordered her communications officer. "It is time for Phase 3. Phase 3 was the part of the plan that would determine whether humanity reclaimed its place in the galaxy or was destroyed forever. It depended on the courage of people like So Young and Tae Min, rebels who were willing to risk everything. For freedom. So Young received the message late at night in her basement workshop. It was encrypted with codes that only the most trusted resistance leaders knew. When she decoded it, her hands began to shake. The message was simple: "The time has come. Begin the uprising." Signed, Admiral Sujin, Terran Remnant Fleet. So Young had dreamed of this moment for years. But now that it was here, she felt afraid. The rebels had better weapons now, but they were still vastly outnumbered. If they revealed themselves too early, the Veltar would crush them, but if they waited too long, the humans might be defeated before help could arrive. "What does it say?" Taemin asked. So Young showed him the message. Her brother read it twice, then looked at her with serious eyes. "Are we ready?" he asked. "We have to be ready. The humans kept their promise. They came back. Now we have to keep our promise to help them." Across Vega Prime, the secret resistance network came alive. Weapons were distributed. Plans were reviewed. People who had lived as slaves for their entire lives prepared to fight for freedom. Similar uprisings were beginning on dozens of worlds. The humans had spent years making contact with resistance groups, sharing technology and coordinating plans. Now all of that preparation would be tested. Captain Hyenwoo sat in his cabin, staring at the reports from the latest human attacks. His fleet was still being repaired after the battle at Outer Terminus. Half his ships were barely spaceworthy. For the first time in his career, he was questioning everything he had been taught about Veltar superiority. The humans had outfought him with a single ship. They had made his entire fleet look foolish. How had they become so powerful? The old record said humans were primitive, with simple technology and crude tactics. But the humans he had faced were anything but primitive. A message appeared on his personal communicator. It was encrypted with codes he had not seen in years. The message was from someone he thought was dead. "Captain Hyenwoo, we need to talk. There are things you do not understand about this war. Things that might change how you see everything. Meet me at the coordinates I am sending. Come alone." An old friend, Hyenwoo stared at the message for a long time. He recognized the encryption style. It was from someone he had served with years ago, before they had been declared a traitor and executed. But if that person was still alive, what else had the Veltar High Command lied about? The war was about to become much more complicated. The morning sky burned red over Vega Prime. So Young stood on the roof of her building and watched the explosions bloom across the Veltar military base. Her weapons were working. The plasma bolts that should have bounced off enemy shields were cutting through them like paper. "It is really happening," her brother Taemin said beside her. "After 300 years, we are fighting back." Below them, thousands of people poured into the streets. They carried the new weapons So Young had designed. They moved with purpose and anger that had built up over generations of slavery. The Veltar guards fired back, but there were too many. Rebels and not enough guards. So Young felt tears on her face. She had dreamed of this day for so long. The day when her people would stand up and say no more. The day when the Veltar would learn that humans could not be kept down forever. Similar uprisings were happening on 17 other worlds. Mining colonies where workers had broken their chains. Factory planets where slaves had seized the machines. Trading stations where merchants had declared independence. The galaxy was burning with the fire of revolution. On the edge of the Kepler system, Captain Dong Hyen watched his tactical screen with satisfaction. The Indomitable was no longer alone. 5 other human ships flew with him through space. The Terran Remnant fleet was finally showing its true strength. Veltar Patrol Squadron approaching, reported Commander Yujin. 8 heavy cruisers. Good, Dong Hyan said. It is time they learned what we can really do. The battle was brief and brutal. The Veltar ships tried to use their old tactics. They formed a line and fired their heavy guns, expecting the humans to do the same. But the human ships scattered and attacked from all sides. They used the asteroids and gas clouds for cover. They struck at weak points and vanished before the enemy could react. When it was over, 6 Veltar ships were destroyed and 2 were running away. The human ships had barely been scratched. Send the message, Dong Hyan ordered. Yujin broadcast. On all frequencies. This is the Terran Remnant Fleet. We have returned to reclaim our birthright. Veltar forces that withdraw will be allowed to leave. Those that stay will be destroyed. It was a bluff partly. The humans had 47 ships total, not nearly enough to fight the entire Veltar navy. But the aliens did not need to know. Captain Hyan Wu sat alone in his cabin, reading the data device his old friend Min-Ki had given him. What he found there shook him to his core. The humans did not want to build a new empire. They wanted something completely different. The document spoke of a galactic federation where all species would be equal. There would be no masters and slaves, no conquered world sending tribute to distant capitals. Instead, there would be cooperation and trade between free peoples. It sounded impossible. How could different species work together without someone in charge? The Veltar way was simpler. The strong ruled the weak. Order came from the top down, but as Hyan Wu read more, he began to understand. The Veltar Empire was built on fear and oppression. It required constant war to keep control. But a federation based on cooperation could last much longer and make everyone stronger. He thought about his battle with Captain Dong Hyan at Outer Terminus. The human could have destroyed his entire fleet. Instead, Dong Hyan had let them retreat. That was not the action of a conqueror. That was the action of someone who believed in mercy. Hyan Wu made a decision that would change everything. He activated his communicator and sent a message on the frequency Min-Ki had given him. This is Captain Hyan Wu of the Veltar fleet. I want to talk. Admiral Sujin stood in the command center of her hidden base, watching reports flow in from across the galaxy. Green lights showed successful human attacks. Blue lights showed rebel uprisings. Red lights showed Veltar forces retreating or being destroyed. The plan was working better than she had dared hope. The scattered attacks were making the Veltar think they faced a massive invasion. In reality, the human fleet was still tiny compared to the enemy, but fear was a powerful weapon. Casualty reports, she asked her aide. Light losses on our side? The rebels are fighting harder than expected. The new weapons are making a real difference. Sujin nodded. So Young's shield harmonics had given even crude rebel weapons the power to hurt Veltar ships. Combined with the uprisings it was causing chaos throughout the enemy empire, but she knew this was just the beginning. Soon the Veltar would organize a massive counterattack. When that happened, the humans would need more than superior tactics and rebel allies. Any word from our contact in the Veltar fleet? She asked. Yes, Admiral. Captain Hyan Wu has made contact. He wants to meet. This was the part of the plan that could change everything. If they could convince Veltar officers to switch sides, the war might end without destroying both civilizations, Grand Admiral. Kyung-Soo arrived at Veltar Sector headquarters with the largest fleet ever assembled. 200 massive warships filled space around the command station. He was the most feared military leader in the hegemony. He had never lost a battle in 60 years of service, but as he studied the reports he felt something new. Doubt. How many human ships have we confirmed? He asked Admiral Jae-ho. At least 20, possibly more. They coordinate attacks across multiple star systems simultaneously. 20 ships have paralyzed an entire sector? Yes, sir. Their technology is far superior to ours. And their tactics ... double quotes. What about their tactics? They do not fight like any enemy we have faced. They avoid direct battle. They use speed and stealth instead of armor and firepower. They make our strengths into weaknesses. Kyung-Soo studied the tactical displays. The human attacks formed a pattern, but it was unlike any military strategy he knew. The humans were not trying to hold territory. They were trying to spread fear and confusion. What do they want? He asked. Unknown, sir. They speak of reclaiming their space, but they have not tried to occupy any worlds they attack. This worried Kyung-Soo more than anything else. An enemy that wanted territory could be fought or negotiated with, but an enemy with unclear goals was much more dangerous. Double all patrols, he ordered. Find out where they are hiding, and find out how many ships they really have. Captain Heijin sat in a cantina on Rigel Station, listening to the excited chatter around him. Everyone was talking about the human attacks and the rebel uprisings. For the first time in living memory, the Veltar looked vulnerable. I saw it myself, he told a group of traders. Human ships destroying Veltar cruisers like they were made of scrap metal. Moving so fast the enemy could not even target them. What do the humans want? Asked an old merchant. Freedom, Heijin said. Not just for themselves, but for everyone. They are not trying to build a new empire. They want to tear down the old one. Around the cantina, people nodded and whispered, slaves dreaming of liberation. Merchants tired of paying tribute to distant masters. Soldiers sick of fighting endless wars for someone else's glory. The revolution was spreading faster than anyone had expected. Dr. Minho worked frantically in his laboratory, translating more ancient human documents. What he found amazed him. The humans had planned their exile down to the smallest detail. They had not fled in panic but had executed a careful strategy. Project Exodus was just the beginning, he said to his assistant. They planned to use their time in hiding to advance their technology by centuries. The record spoke of adaptive systems that could learn and improve themselves, of quantum computers that could process information faster than any biological brain, of nanomaterials stronger than anything known to science. While the Veltar grew comfortable with their old ways, the humans were inventing the future. Minho continued. When they returned, they brought weapons and tactics we could not even imagine. One document caught his attention. It was a personal message from the last human admiral before the Exodus. We go into darkness not as refugees, but as students. We will learn everything about our enemies and ourselves. When we return, we will be stronger than anyone believes possible. The humans had kept that promise. On the bridge of the Indomitable, Captain Donghayan received a priority message from Admiral Sujin. The Veltar were finally organizing a massive counterattack. Grand Admiral Kyung-Soo was coming with 200 ships. Are we ready for the final battle? Yujin asked. As ready as we can be, Donghayan replied. The question is whether our Veltar allies will keep their word when the shooting starts. That was the biggest risk in the human plan. They had made contact with several Veltar officers who were tired of the Empire's brutality. But it was one thing to talk about switching sides and another to actually fire on your own people. Signal from Captain Hyun-woo, the communications officer reported. He says his squadron is ready to join us. Good, we will need every ship we can get. Donghayan looked at his tactical display. The human fleet was finally gathering in one place. 47 ships against 200. In a straight fight, they would be destroyed quickly, but this would not be a straight fight. The humans had spent 3 centuries learning how to turn weakness into strength. They had allies the Veltar did not know about. They had weapons the enemy could not understand. Most importantly, they were fighting for something the Veltar had forgotten. They were fighting for hope. So Young received word that she was needed at the final battle. The rebel uprisings had sucked. The final battle began at the edge of the Veltar home system. Grand Admiral Kyung-Soo had assembled the largest fleet in hegemony history. 300 massive warships filled the space around the capital world, their weapons aimed at the approaching human forces. But Admiral Sujin's fleet was not what the Veltar expected. Instead of trying to match their numbers, the humans had brought allies. Ships from dozens of liberated worlds flew alongside the Terran vessels. Former slaves now fought as equals beside their human liberators. Sir, Eugen reported from the bridge of the Indomitable. We are detecting Veltar ships breaking formation. Captain Dong Hyan looked at his tactical display. Several squadrons of Veltar vessels were moving away from the main fleet. At first, he thought it might be a flanking maneuver, then he received a transmission. Human fleet. This is Captain Hyan Wu of the Veltar 5th Squadron. We are here. To help. Dong Hyan could hardly believe it. The same Veltar captain he had defeated at Outer Terminus was now offering to join the fight against his own people. Captain Hyan Wu, are you certain about this decision? I have read your liberation protocol, Hyan Wu replied. I have seen what my people have become. We have forgotten that strength should be used to protect, not to conquer. It is time to. Remember, across the Veltar fleet, more ships were breaking away. Captains who had grown tired of endless war. Officers who had seen too much suffering. Soldiers who wanted to fight for something better than fear. Grand Admiral Kyung-soo watched his perfect formation dissolve into chaos. Nearly a quarter of his fleet was defecting to the human side. In 60 years of service, he had never seen anything like it. Sir, his aide said nervously, should we fire on the defecting ships? Kyung-soo considered it. Destroying traitors was standard procedure. But these were not random deserters. These were some of his best officers, people he had known and trusted for years. No, he said finally. Let them go. We will win this battle with loyal ships only. But even as he said it, Kyung-soo knew the battle was already lost. Not because of numbers or weapons, but because of something more important. The humans had given his people hope for a different kind of future. The space battle that followed was unlike anything in galactic history. Instead of two sides fighting for dominance, it became a struggle between the old way of thinking and the new. Veltar ships that stayed loyal to the hegemony fought desperately to maintain their crumbling empire. But their hearts were no longer in it. On Vega Prime, So Young watched the battle reports with tears in her eyes. After 3 centuries of oppression, her people were finally free. The Veltar military base was in rebel hands. The governors had fled or surrendered. Children who had never seen the sky without enemy ships overhead could now look up at the stars and dream of visiting them. Is it really over? Taemin asked. The fighting is over, So Young said. Now the real work begins. She was right. Winning the war was only the first step. Building a lasting peace would be much harder. The humans had destroyed the Veltar Empire, but they had to create something better to replace it. Dr. Minho stood in the ruins of the ancient human city where he had made his first discoveries. Now it was being rebuilt. Human engineers worked alongside Veltar construction crews, former enemies learning to cooperate. The old tablets were right, he told his research team. The humans did return to bring light to the darkness. But not the way I expected. The light was not weapons or conquest. It was the idea that different species could work together as equals. It was the dream of a galaxy where strength was used to protect the weak, not to dominate them. Ken Dong Hyan walked through the corridors of the former Veltar capital ship. Grand Admiral Kyung-soo had surrendered after his fleet fell apart around him. The old warrior sat in his cabin, staring at reports of celebrations on 100 liberated worlds. I do not understand, Kyung-soo said when Dong Hyan entered. You? 1. Why are you not executing me? Because execution would not serve any purpose, Dong Hyan replied. The war is over. Now we need to build something new. What will happen to my people? The same thing that will happen to all people in the new Federation. You will be free to choose your own path. Free to govern yourselves, free to trade and explore and create. Kyung-soo looked confused. But we were your enemies. We oppressed you for centuries. Some of you did. But people like Captain Hyan Wu showed us that not all Veltar supported the Empire. Many of you were trapped by it, just like the species you conquered. This was the hardest part of the human plan. It would have been easier to simply destroy the Veltar and take revenge for 3 centuries of oppression. But the humans had learned that cycles of revenge only led to more war. Captain Hyan Wu stood on the bridge of his ship, now flying under the flag of the new Galactic Federation. His crew was a mix of former Veltar and liberated humans. It should have been impossible for them to work together, but somehow they did. Course set for the Rigel system, his navigation officer reported. She was human, one of the rebels who had fought in the uprising. Very good, let us see what needs rebuilding there. This was Hyanwoo's new mission. Instead of conquering worlds, he was helping to repair them. Instead of enforcing the will of distant masters, he was protecting the rights of local populations. It was harder work than conquest, but it was also more rewarding. Admiral Sujin addressed the first meeting of the Galactic Federation Council. Representatives from 47 different species sat in the Great Hall, former enemies now working together to write the laws that would govern their shared future. We gather not as conquerors and conquered, she said, but as equals seeking to build something that has never existed before. A galactic civilization based on cooperation rather than domination. The task seemed impossible. How could so many different species, with different needs and different ways of thinking, ever agree on anything? But as Sujin looked out at the assembled delegates, she felt hope. Humans and Veltar sat side by side. Former slaves debated policy with their former masters. Children of a dozen different species played together in the corridors outside. It would not be easy. There would be disagreements and setbacks. Some worlds would try to return to the old ways, but for the first time in galactic history there was a real chance for lasting peace. So Young received a message that changed her life. The Federation Council wanted her to serve as the new Chief Technology Officer. Her job would be to ensure that advanced technology was shared equally among all member species. Will you accept? Taemin asked. So Young looked around the basement workshop where she had spent so many years dreaming of freedom. Now that dream was real, and she had a chance to help make it permanent. Yes, she said, but I will need help. The Federation will need thousands of engineers and scientists working together. You will have them. People from every world who want to build instead of destroy. Captain Don Hyan received his new orders from Admiral Sujin. The Indomitable was being assigned to the Deep Space Exploration Division. Their mission was to venture beyond known space, to find new worlds and new species that might want to join the Federation. Are you ready for another adventure? He asked Yujin, who was now his first officer. Always, sir. The galaxy is a big place. There must be other species out there who dream of freedom. As the Indomitable departed for unknown regions of space, its crew looked back at the civilized worlds with pride. They had helped create something unprecedented, a galactic government based on consent rather than conquest. But they also looked forward with excitement. The universe was vast and full of wonders. New challenges awaited, new friends to be made, new problems to be solved. The age of empires was over. The age of cooperation had begun. On 1,000 worlds, children went to sleep hearing stories of the Great War and the peace that followed. They learned about the humans who had refused to give up even when defeat seemed certain. They learned about the Veltar who had chosen justice over loyalty. They learned about the ordinary people who had stood up to tyrants and won, but most importantly, they learned that the future was theirs to shape. They could choose to build walls or bridges, to create weapons or tools, to spread fear or hope. The humans had shown them that even the mightiest empire could fall when people chose to work together. Now it was up to the children to make sure that the light of freedom would never be extinguished again. In the depths of space, new stars were being born. New worlds were waiting to be discovered. New species were dreaming of the day when they too might join the great community of free peoples. The galaxy was wide and full of possibilities, and humanity, no longer alone, was ready to explore them all.